Hello, this is Lorraine Batcher from the 4-H Paint Night in Vernon River. We painted Point Prim Lighthouse. First step that we did was I gave you 4 colors. You had white, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and ultramarine blue. And the first color that we mixed was mud, and that was made from cadmium red and ultramarine blue. And we mixed a very rich purple. It's not mud like PEI. It's the mud that we use in painting. Then we mixed cadmium orange, and that's made from cadmium yellow and cadmium red. Lovely rich color. Again, just see the stain on the paper and you'll see what color it actually is. We wanted to mix up all our colors before we started, and it wouldn't be nearly as difficult then to continue with our painting. The next color we're mixing is burnt sienna. It's mixed with our mud plus cadmium orange. And it's worked in different strengths because there's darker, and that's made with more mud. And then we mix up a lighter shade of that, and that's mixed up with more of the cadmium orange. And again, that's for light and shadow in the different colors. I ran out of room on my palette, so I mixed up some more cadmium orange. And I put with that some ultramarine blue. And what I'm getting here now is a form of yellow ochre. And yellow ochre, again, I'm mixing it with white. That's going to be the color that we'll be using on the cement. And it's a colored shadow. I know it's not the gray you would normally think, but the aggregate was quite light. And in the sunshine, we had a shadowed side which had some mud in it, and we had the sunshine side which had more yellow in it, as you can see right here. So I've got them mixed in varying degrees, and now I'm going to take those colors that I've actually mixed and put them on my palette. One's the sunshine and one is the shadow. This is what my canvas looks like. Next, we're going to lightly spray your canvas with water. Then we're going to coat it with that layer of titanium white, keeping it really moist. Then we're going to add some blue. You're going to need blue at the very top of the canvas and the very bottom of the canvas. One's for the sky and one's for the water. And of course the water reflects what is in the sky. So at the very end, just very lightly, use your paintbrush just like a feather. You'll need all those variances. Just let them be what they want. Now for the next step, you're going to need your canvas to be dry, so dry it with a hairdryer. Now that we have the bases of our sky and our water, we draw in some lines. We found a space that was 2/3 of the way over on the canvas, and from that I drew off almost triangles, going off into the distance. And I'm going to put a triangle on top with that center line right in the center. Then you put a little rectangle on top of that and a small triangle on top of that. Wipe out that center line in the lighthouse, but not on that concrete that we had there. Now I'm going to draw in where the pieces of land are, because when I took the photo of this, I was standing directly in front of the Point Prim Lighthouse. I was standing on the rocks, and it was very, very low tide. So it's just pieces of rocks that are sticking out of the water. Now it's time to paint. So what I've done is I've used my mud, that purple mud, and I've put a little bit of white in it. That's the shadow side of our lighthouse. And next I'm going to use white. I'll start at the other side of the lighthouse and bring that white into the purple in that triangle. And as you bring it closer, you just blend it in with up and down strokes. I changed to a smaller brush there. But for the most part, a great deal of it I'll use a large brush. And just clean it up a bit. Where your paint is dry, you can do that. If your paint was still wet, you wouldn't be able to. If your paint wasn't quite dry, you can always do it with dry it with a hairbrush. Now we're going to use that dark. Remember the yellow ochre I told you about? It's actually yellow ochre, and it's got a little bit of a mud in it. It brings that neutrality in there. It actually neutralizes some of the color. So that's the dark side, the shadow side, the same as in the lighthouse itself. And then on the other side, I'll put in the highlights. It's a much lighter shade, and all it is added a little bit of extra white in it. It takes the chroma down, which is the vibrancy, but it brings a lightness to it. And there's still plenty of color there. So it shows the area between the light and dark. And if you don't have that, your painting is very, very dull. And you will not have a real shapes. They'll be just flat. Now I'm using mud, my purple mud, and I'm drawing in that area where I put the rocks. That could be any shape, because I can tell you that the ocean definitely changes the rocks as each year goes by. So don't worry about it. It's not exact. It doesn't have to be. But what I'm doing is just filling in the areas where the rocks would be here now. And this is with my mud, straight mud. And it's in varying shades. I don't want it all to be one solid color. If I did, it would be very dull and it would be flat. Now I'm taking my purple mud and I'm drawing the top of the lighthouse. Just almost like an oval, very, very simple shape. Then I am coloring the next part in white, as you can see. And the reason being, I want to paint it red. But if I painted that red on top of what it was, it would never show really a nice bright red like I want. So we have to bring the canvas back to white in places. You can see that what I have is lines. In between those lines, I'm making it bluer so that those holes show up brighter and more vibrant. Now what we're going to do is put some shape in that little oval purple shape that's there. And by going up into it and making it slightly rounded, just slightly, and bringing the color down through it, it looks like it actually does go around the lighthouse. And that's the platform for the top of the lighthouse to sit on. So we're brushing up, and I'm making it a little bit lighter and a little bit darker also, right in under. Very small shadow, and that's again your mud mixed with a little bit of white, but it's much darker than the white color that's on there, so it shows. And again, that white, if I don't put white on there, I can't get red, so I'll bring my canvas back to white. I'm just making things a little clearer now with a small brush, and much whiter out front, a little darker on that side, to give that a shadow side also. It's the only way to give it a real shape, otherwise there's flatness. Just touching up. I had let it dry a little bit so I could see where it goes. Acrylics dry darker, 2 shades darker actually, than what you put on there. So I'm making sure that's nice and white, so when I put on my red, I will be able to just go ahead and put it on. It'll be lovely and bright. Yellow would be the same thing. Now I'm taking a flat brush and I'm making 3 windows straight down the lighthouse. The top one is slightly smaller than the next one, and the bottom one is the largest in terms of length. And that's just with the mud, mixed with a bit of white. And on the very bottom, I've got a little tiny bit of red, just to go over and make like a windowsill. And I'm touching up with red here and making a fence. And I finished it off, and this is where the second video came in. And remember I told you that the machine had stopped on me and I didn't even realize it. But everything on the top has been done with red, and at the very back of it, I mixed a bit of the mud in with the red and made it sort of a purpley, but not as purple as that mud that we've got mixed up. So it's a dark shade. Then I've got the burnt sienna. I drew lines straight down the center, and then I took my flat brush, very gently, just made it looks like rust that's coming down on that cement, and that's exactly the way it did look. So all I'm doing is just pulling it down. I have got a little bit of that burnt sienna also mixed into the top of my mud that's on the rocks, and you can see I'm just every once in a while dotting it. I've put a few waves into that water by putting some dark purple in it, the dark mud, and some white. Just dotting up. I had a few dots made out of the burnt sienna on the, it made like holes that were in the cement. And now I am finishing up my red, giving that second coat so it looks bright and fresh. That's the dark side. So that's got a little bit of mud mixed up with the cadmium red. And this is straight cadmium red on the front side, on that right side where the sunshine was hitting. Just touch-ups. Make it a little bit smoother here and there. And top, the very top of it, with that lightest color of yellow ochre that I have. Because the sunshine hits the top no matter what. Up and down motions of little bits of color, and it gives it the up and down look. And this is the reflection. Just white paint with a bit of water in it, and give it some horizontal strokes to make it look like it's the top of the waves. And bring a bit of that purple that we're putting in the water there into the white so that it looks like the shadow side too. And I think we're pretty close to being there. We have your finished painting. I hope you get a chance to go over this and go over what you've done yourself. Maybe you've got some paint at home to finish it up yourself.